Well, hello there, and welcome to the Second Life Book Club. As you can see, I'm lying in bed today, here at a very majestic bed. It apparently belongs to the ewige Ganja, or the eternal Ganja. The Ganja is the matriarch of a faraway alien race, slightly related to the humans and the Panyasians, and they're all about constant self optimization. They're completely obsessed with anything that optimizes you, workout or just implants or anything else. They also love surveillance, and the Ewige Ganja surveils them and they surveil each other and they judge each other on a daily, hourly basis. Now, good thing is that they live some 35 million light years away or something like that. The bad thing is that they may have access to a supra intelligence by the name of Ace, which itself contains billions of consciousnesses. And now Perry Rhodan and his team, they have to possibly uh, suffer great harm by trying to retrieving the scattered fragments of this supra being, which is millions of years old and has guided the evolution of the human race forever. Now, what am I talking about here, dear viewer? Um, well, I'm talking about, of course, the current season or cycle of Perry Rhodan. Now, we had the folks from Perry Rhodan on, a bunch of writers, and we have two on today. And I'm very excited. Now, you will call me obsessed. Um, you may label me uh, obsessed with Perry Rhodan. Now, let me tell you, Perry Rhodan has thousands and thousands and thousands of little novellas out, and I only own possibly maybe 1,000. So let's look at the display here. This is the first Perry Rhodan that I started with, and we have a guest here on the Second Life Book Club who always asks me, "Are there snakes in this book?" I can tell you there were a bunch of snakes on the cover of Aufstand im Viersonnenreich. That came out in 1983. I was 13 years old, and I got completely hooked. And then I took a 35-year break and started last year with this one, Der Rote Stern. I went to the kiosk and I was like, Perry Rhodan is still doing this? This is issue number 3,175. Can you believe it? Perry Rhodan is the biggest and longest running sci-fi series in the world. No, it's not Star Trek. It's not Doctor Who. Perry Rhodan is the biggest and longest running, having been published since 1961. Now, the Ewige Ganja, this is the current cycle, the fragment cycle. This is the book with the Ewige Ganja. Looks a little bit like actress Martina Gedeck. But I digress. Did I tell everybody that I'm not obsessed with Perry Rhodan? Yes, I do own a baseball hat. Correct. I do own the puzzle, the 60-year anniversary puzzle, the 500-piece puzzle. It's shrink wrapped still. I'm not going to open it. I'm going to put it on eBay to pay for my son's college education. I do own a hoodie, but I'm not obsessed. Here is a slide of Perry Rhodan stacked sideways. This is a big book here. These are the Perry Rhodan Heftromane. They are like dime novels. And right next to it are the little novellas of Perry Rhodan Neo, which is um, it's not a reboot. It's a new version. We'll ask our guests how he would define it. This is a side-by-side stack. And here is my stack of just a few of the around 800 or 900, possibly 1,000 little novellas. Let's leave this room and go to where the guests are. I'm going to go through this mirror and I will magically appear in Terrania, where Perry Rhodan lives, or where our audience lives. Here we are, and we have a full house. Terrania is also, we designed it a little bit as a gallery and homage to Perry Rhodan. So you can see some of the international editions. Perry Rhodan was published in many, many countries. It's currently published, I believe, in about five or so still, or maybe a few more in Japan and Brazil and the Netherlands, and of course in Germany. So here is this is the French edition I'm standing here in front of. Right next to it is a little cosplay photo. Um, these are really crazy fans. I'm not nearly as obsessive as they are. They dress up like the characters, like you're a Star Trek fan, but a little bit more, slightly more obsessive. This is the very first issued novella from 1961, Unternehmen Stardust. This is the Greek edition cover, came out in Greece. And here's the founder, Clark Dalton and Karl Herbert Scheer, the two founders that started this whole thing in 1961. There was a lot of conflict resolution through space battles and guns. And then William Volz came in the 70s. And I'll ask our guest about his assessment. I think there was a time when they thought like, oh my God, where are the space battles now we got to negotiate with the aliens and sit around and smoke the peace pipe or whatever. Come on, we want space battles. So there was definitely a little bit of a maybe a pacifist or maybe a conflict resolution of a different kind, of a more diplomatic kind, was popular. So here we are. Welcome. I want to welcome our two guests. We have a veteran of the Second Life Book Club, and the lag is hitting me too, so I'm trying to sit down. And we have a noob here. To my left is Verena Temsen. Hello, Verena. I hope she can hear us. Verena, can you hear us?
Hi, Drax. Yes, I can hear you. I think we have a strong lag now.
There's a little bit of lag, but you sound good. People in the
Okay.
room, please let me know if you can hear Verena. And to my right, we have Robert Corvus.
Good evening, everybody.
Now, I asked you this last time, Robert, when you were here. How would you define How would you explain Perry Rhodan in under 1 minute to somebody who doesn't know what it is? And I remember last time I said Perry Rhodan is a mixture of the Michael Ende's The Never-Ending Story and MacGyver. And I have to revise that. I just used MacGyver for people my age to express that there is a certain amount of action contained in this Perry Rhodan formula, and I say formula in the best sense of the word, and there is some sort of resolution going on. But in hindsight, I would not use MacGyver as a metaphor for Perry Rhodan, although it's issued every week, and there is a certain way that each story is self-contained, but there's also this really long arc. And so if you compare it with something like a show from that era, I think it does Perry Rhodan a huge disservice because the scope is so epic, and yeah. But we'll get into it a little bit, sort of what the cycle means and how many stories that actually contains and how that is constructed. But Robert, question: how would you explain Perry Rhodan in under 1 minute to a noob?
Well, imagine if you like future histories, so the future history of mankind, then you are in the right place with Perry Rhodan. So Perry Rhodan is the story of mankind traveling to the stars and finding its place amongst the stars in a universe that's vibrant of life in all shape and form. And Perry Rhodan is the character Perry Rhodan was the first man on the moon, and he then became the leader of mankind. And nowadays, in the current series, he's more like a well meaning advisor of mankind. So he's no longer the head of the state or something like that, but he's still the wise man with a lot of experience who is the best friend of mankind and helps people to find their own place among the stars.
This is really well said. I think I'm going to transcribe this and memorize it. Before I go to Verena, Robert, do you know how, in terms of scope, and I looked this up on the Peripedia, which is the Wikipedia for Perry Rhodan, what time frame are we talking about? I mean, the first book takes place in 1971, and I don't even know where we are now because this the new galactic time calculation, the new galactic time zone. So the scope of the series is already thousands of years. I mean, thousands of years of stories have happened. I'm not counting going backwards in time, because that also happens when the Terranians, the humans, discover what happened before uh, they arrived on the scene. But do you know how many thousands of years this is already happening, the story?
I think Verena is best to answer because she is head of the canon in Perry Rhodan, but I think it's about 5,500 years.
Wow. Wow, it's amazing. Okay, Verena, your turn. How would you describe Perry Rhodan in under 1 minute? We'll give her a little bit of time with the lag. Uh-oh, Verena is hopefully still here with us. I think she might be gone. Uh, Her headset is charging.
Can you
Verena,
hear me?
now we can. There is a substantial
Okay.
delay.
Yeah. Yeah, it really seems not everything comes through also because I already started talking, but you couldn't hear me. And well, now I removed the charging device. Actually, I hope that the headset will
It
still live
works.
long enough.
It works fine. It worked in Second Life, but for YouTube, now we hear you fine. Okay, so how
Ah,
would you what is Perry Rhodan? Without mentioning Star Trek. Haha, let's make it more difficult.
yeah. Well, what is the problem is Robert already said so much of what I had thought about saying. Um, it's you could describe it as a space opera kind of, because yeah, it's an ongoing story, and it focuses, of course, on certain characters which you follow, which are also um, relatively in. Oh God, I've lost it. What's the word for unsterblich?
Uh,
Immortal,
Immortal.
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 Yeah.
Oh my God, my brain's not working very well this evening.
You say the
Anyway,
German
yeah,
word, I'll be your live translator, or Robert is.
yeah, right. Thanks a lot. Yeah, they are relatively immortal. So, they can, but
Okay,
uh,
unfortunately, we're completely losing Verena. I'm gonna throw it back to Robert. Maybe you can find a different headset, or we'll try it again in a little bit. One additional question.
I think what Verena started to say is there are people that are relatively immortal. That's the term we use in the series. That
Hmm.
means they are born human as you and I are, but then at some point they got a technical device which we call a cell activator. So it
Hmm.
activates your body cells. They don't age anymore. They would also be resistant to different kinds of illnesses, most kinds of illnesses even. And if you are wounded or if uh, if you had a hard time or something, then you will recover more fast. But the most important thing is you don't age anymore. So that makes you relatively immortal, and relatively because you still can be wounded. So
Hmm.
somebody can shoot you, or you can fall from a high place, or something like that. So that means, in terms of the science fiction series we're talking about, we can use the same characters for an unlimited amount of time. So the characters that the readers know and love and that they think about when they think about the past adventures, we can take them with us
Hmm.
over thousands of years in the plot. But still, their adventures remain thrilling because they can still be in danger. Somebody can try to hurt them. So that's this relative immortality that we're talking about. And that applies to maybe 2 dozen characters in the books. So it's not like an everyday device, but it's something that Perry Rhodan himself has, so the main character, and basically a bunch of people from different species from around the galaxy who most of the time, most of them are allies of Perry Rhodan, but some of them even are rivals or even enemies. And they got their hand on these cell activators and became relatively immortal.
Now, I asked about the time frame, about the scope of time, and I was looking on Peripedia to get also a sense of. And by the way, here is a here's just the slide of Peripedia, the annual calendar, and you see these links that go to plot points and to story arcs in the pre-Christian period. Then you scroll down, there's the Christian calendar. Absolutely insane when you go to this to Peripedia. The other question in terms of scope, Robert. Oh, Verena crashed. She'll come back. The other question in terms of scope, Robert. There are so many alien species. I really don't know. I mean, really, it makes the entire Star Trek franchise. I don't want to diss them or anything. It's not a competition here, but it really is minuscule what Star Trek and I'm talking about the entirety, classic, next generation, Deep Space Nine, etc., Enterprise. You guys throw out into the mix, into the plot, so many different species. Do you have any type of is there a number that you can that is floating around in your head? I don't know, like 1,000 different species or something like that?
Oh, at least, at least.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't have that specific number, and it's also um, it also depends what do you count, because the series
Yeah,
also explores on the, let's say, on the border of what you count as life even.
there you
So
go.
we are
You've got a
we
lot of hybrids of man-machine interfaces.
yeah, and even machine only cultures. So at what point, even if you don't start with biology, but you even start with machines and computers and so on, the question is there a point when a machine evolves and evolves and evolves and there are generations of machines? Is there a point where you can say that is not a thing anymore, but this is a person? And that's an open question in the universe of Perry Rhodan that is answered in different ways by different people. And also,
We-
we have kind of intelligent plants. We have swarm intelligences, like they are only intelligence if 7 of them come together or something. So, do you count them as one or as seven? So, right? And of course, we have also this combination between different species which have synergies. So, they can come together, and as a combined person, they can get some consciousness.
Mhm.
And also up the way to what you mentioned in your intro, like the supra intelligences, which are basically a whole species that became spiritual.
I'm bringing up a slide here. I had this for later, but since we're talking about it, the onion shell model.
Right? Very
Uh,
basic, very fundamental to Perry
yeah,
Rhodan.
Shyla prepared this slide so the camera could maybe just just look at that, and please explain the onion shell model, what it is, and how does it apply to the plot.
That's something that Perry Rhodan, so the character Perry Rhodan, explored in the beginning of the series, or began to explore. So the basic idea is in the beginning there was nothing like void, and then there came matter, and then matter became life, and from life you get something like intelligence. From intelligence you get to culture. So that's different stages of development. But in the core, you still have matter, so you never lose it. It's really like onion shells. And this stage where you have culture, this is where we would be in the real world. And then next would be to become spacefaring culture. And then there comes this stage where you say the whole species can decide to merge and to become a spiritual being. So
Mhm.
one supra intelligence. And that was established quite early in the series. So in the first 100 novelettes, maybe even in the first 50, I'm not sure, but very early. But then throughout the series, it became more and more complex. So we added additional layers. So something that we would call um, a matter source. So something that injects matter into the universe, and a matter sink.
The
So
matter
something
sink
that,
that is sucking the matter away.
right, right,
Mhm.
right, right. And basically, we're saying the one is a positive force, but not in a moral way, but in adding substance to the universe, and the other is a negative force. And then these can become the powers of order, the cosmocrats, or the powers of chaos, the chaotarchs. And at that point, even at the supra intelligences, their realm of a supra intelligence would span several galaxies.
Mhm.
And if you would be kind of be a shepherd for the lower species. And we have this supra intelligence S, for example, that is the shepherd of the Milky Way and all life within, including humans.
Mhm.
And Perry Rhodan is kind of a chosen one in the beginning of the series of S. And throughout the series, he emancipates from that. So he becomes more and more self reliant. He finds out that it's not always a good thing to have such a mighty friend. You have to really find your own some point in the series. So that's in this philosophical area of William Waltz that you already mentioned. So one of the most influential authors of Perry Rhodan. They basically developed the idea that there must be a third path between order and chaos, which much, much later came into the Babylon 5 franchise as well.
And
But
this is really right.
that was and that third way that Perry Rhodan would then support would be life itself. So life needs order as well as chaos, both.
It's really interesting that it has that there is no binary moral definition of the Materiensenke and the matter creation, but that
Right.
they can be both. And the last where I came back after my 35 plus years hiatus was the Chaotaichen cyclus or cycle. Again, the cycle or the season it always is 100 novellas basically. I'm going to put this slide up here. This is a bunch of the covers of the last season that just concluded last December, and you guys really explored the need for both of these entities of chaos and order to well intertwine and and work together to solve things in a really sophisticated, highly philosophical way. Like I said last time, after 35 years going back, we're like, this is actually quite profound stuff. This is not just a dime novel that is hitting sort of, the formulaic, okay, here's a battle, here's a little bit of uh, heart-wrenching drama, and then we'll wrap it all up. Um, there's a lot of complexity and a lot of meat on the bone here. Some of these covers are pretty amazing. Two of the just concluded cycle, and what was I going to say? So the exploration of those of the chaos and the order was really well done. And now you guys, oh, there's a lot of questions. We'll get to the questions. Somebody on YouTube says the audio is quite faint. Let us know on YouTube if your audio is faint. I have a monitor here and it sounds pretty good. The current cycle. So, Robert, and by the way, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about Rhodan, a German sci-fi series, the biggest in the world. It's published in several countries: Brazil, Japan, I believe the Netherlands, and also in English in the Neo version. Robert Corvus is here. Verena Tamsen crashed. I hope Verena can come back into Second Life shortly. We'll wait for you, Verena. We're not going anywhere. The current season or cycle is called the fragment cycle. Robert, if you can give a brief overview of what the fragment cycle is, and before that, again, talk about the cycle construction of this sort of 100 novellas. What does that mean? What's the scope of that? How many books are these? Is this a year long? Is this 2 years? How does that work?
So the series is numbered, so from starting from one, right? So we have a continuous story starting from issue number one. And it's published in Germany in the so-called Heftroman format. So that would be a novelette in English or a very small pocket book of maybe 100 pages. So it's set like a newspaper, so it appears a little bit different, but differently. But basically, it's a 100-page pocket book in size, and that would be published every week. So on every 100 number, so 100, 200, or now 3,100, 3,200, we would start a new large story arc, like you would have a season in a streaming show. It's quite the same idea. Sometimes we also did shorter cycles, so of 25 issues or of 50 issues, but definitely at these 100 numbers, we would start a new one. And usually nowadays, we would also write these cycles for 100 issues. So that means that roundabout, give or take a few weeks, more or less, for 4 weeks, you would have a 2-year interval. Mm-hmm. So we would tell a large story arc for 2 years and then start the next one. Sometimes they are quite intertwined, so there's a strong connection between them. Sometimes we did a jump of 500 years between issue number 99 and then the next 100. And in the Fragmente cycle, we this is about this supra.
And we're at 2,000. We're at 3,215. Just came into, because I'm a subscriber. Just came in the door. So this is 15 novellas into the new cycle. You actually wrote the first one, and then later, Verena is back. Welcome back, Verena. Please put your speak dot on, or your speak button. And yeah, we're 15 stories, 15 novellas in. Go ahead.
Right. Right. And the basic idea is about this supra intelligence, S. So in English, it would translate to it, like the novel from Stephen King. And this supra intelligence basically is the patron of humankind, and especially of the character Rhodan. But it was gone for hundreds of years because of a disaster that happened back then. So he had to make do without this supra-intelligence. And now he learned that this supra-intelligence, which again is composed of all of the minds of a whole people, so of billions of minds. So it's a composite intelligence, if you like. Yeah? And we now learned that it is fragmented. So it's not in one piece anymore, but it's scattered. And these fragments seem to be hidden in a lot of different and faraway places. We got a hint, or Perry Rhodan got a hint, about the whereabouts of two of these fragments. There will be more, but he knows about two. And one of them is in Morshatstas, which is a small galaxy in the halo of the Sombrero galaxy that you might know from NASA pictures. And that's 35 million light years from home. And we had to
35
develop
million light years.
35 million light years, right? And so we had to muster an expedition to go there. We had to develop some new technology to make this possible. And even then, it took us 10 years of flight time to go there. So that's really a large distance. And basically, we, again, like we do oftentimes in Perry Rhodan, we get in touch with an exotic culture, with an exotic people, and have to find our way there, Perry Rhodan, in this strange territory, strange star systems, strange galaxy even. He wants to find this refugium. I'm not sure if that's the same word in English. This
Refuge.
refuge,
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
refuge of the fragment. So where is it hidden? Where is it protected? And basically, he wants to extract it. And where, however that would work, he doesn't know. He has to find out, and then go on to the next fragments to find them. But of course, he encounters difficulties, and that's something that Draxtor showed you when he was in the sleeping room of the eternal Ganya. So she is the head of state since hundreds of years of this strange cultures of worshippers of perfection, right?
So
And
great, the worshippers of perfection. I mean, this ties again. Sorry to interrupt here. And Verena, you can jump in anytime. I hope the sound works in SL. How Perry Rhodan always, and I mean, popular culture. This is not a singular phenomenon with Perry Rhodan, but you guys do it, I think, particularly well. How sort of the big themes are that happen in the so-called real world are reflected and discussed and examined in sort of dramatic plot in Perry Rhodan. It's just wonderful. Yeah, these perfection and self-optimization obsession of that alien race.
it's something when we introduced the concept to our fan base at a convention, we were several authors on the panel, and I had the honor to introduce the concept because I wrote the debut novel of the new cycle. And then there was a colleague, she's called Lucy Good, that's her name. And she listened to what I told to or what I explained to the audience. And then she raised her hand and said, this idea that everybody is always assessed and is
Mhm.
predicated and gets a grade for everything that he
Or a
does and
like, a
is
like on
alive.
yeah,
Yeah,
a thumbs up.
yeah,
Yep,
and
all the
that's
time.
that, and that's most that has a huge influence on their social status. That's the real life of my 14-year-old daughter in school.
Yeah.
That's what she experiences, right?
And you
And
know what?
you're
And
absolutely,
also what you gives what I also noticed. I work with my documentary work with people with disabilities. Have been working with them for a long time. What I actually find increasingly, again, I had a 35-year hiatus, so I cannot evaluate the entire series. What happened in my time gone? But what I really like is there is a lot of discussion with people who are um, differently abled or the ableism in society is maybe I'm reading too much into it because this is a sort of a theme from my own work, but there's many different characters who are looked down upon, not only particularly in that kind of context what you're talking about, this race, but also others where people have different abilities or a quote unquote lack of abilities and are being discriminated against, and that seems to me also a theme that I really, really, really like how it's being sort of incorporated into the larger epic storyline. Yeah.
Oh, that's really by intent. So we wanted to show that what is a plus for somebody can be a disadvantage in the eyes of somebody else, right?
Mm,
So you can optimize yourself, but when you start optimizing somebody else, that might result in doing him a disservice and making him unhappy, right?
mhm,
So maybe it's not a good thing at all to try to do that. And we want to show this in our novels. We also want to show that sometimes being the in your own eyes the good angel and bringing culture and knowledge and whatever to the world can also be good and beneficial to those who you encounter. So
mm.
both
Oh,
aspects are there, right?
colonialism. Oh, I love colonialism. By the way, I
Yeah.
was just temporarily gone. If the camera can come back, I just came back. I think the eternal Ganya said in the bed where I just lay, she came back and she was dismayed that I'm not in the bed anymore. And I just told her that I have to moderate a live program here on the Second Life Book Club. So she was a little bummed out. Sorry, ewige Ganja, but she approved of my perfection of my symmetry of my dreadlocks and the symmetry of my goggles. Verena, are you back? Verena,
I hope so. You have to tell me.
you sound good. Here you
We
are,
can hear
Verena
you.
Thames. Hello,
Yeah,
and also
wonderful.
we hear you also. I hope in Second Life. Yes, people, please give us a yes and thumbs up.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
Now, Verena, we already covered so much ground. Now, then I'm going to jump right to you um, to a topic uh, that, oh, we have a snake in the audience. Can the camera zoom towards that snake? Is that a big snake? Here's a huge snake and two dragons. Jesus Christ. Verena, do you
I
know
prefer the
how
dragon.
many alien races are in the Perry Rhodan lore?
Oh,
Is it
uncountable.
5,000, 10,000, uncountable?
Uncountable. Because